Peace everyone, this is Amara with my channel Eyes Wide Shut, and last week I looked at a video called Who and What is God. That was part 1, and now this is part 2 to Who and What is God. Who and what is God? You see, some religious people believe that God is omnipotent. God is omnipotent. God is omnipotent. He can see everything. He can be everywhere at the same time. He has the power to take life and to give life. That is who they say that God is, who they think that God is, that he's all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing, and can be in several places at the same time. But where do people get these ideas from? Where do they get these notions from that God is omnipotent? God is all-seeing, all-knowing, all-being. God can take life. God can give life. God can do what God wants. Okay? Now this is coming mainly from religious points of view. Some people believe that Jesus was God. Some faiths actually believe that Jesus was God, but other faiths say no, Jesus was not God. But where did these ideas come from? Where these notions come from that Jesus was God or Jesus is not God? Where did they get these ideas from that God is a man? It seems a bit biased. Couldn't God be a woman? And if Jesus was God, that means that he was a physical being and he came down from somewhere. Where did he come down from? They say heaven. So where is heaven? And that's another thing that's been baffling people for the longest of times. Where is heaven? All these other prophets are supposed to have gone to heaven. Where is this place? Is it a real place? Is it a physical place? Is it some kind of mystical place? Where is heaven? If you asked a 3-year-old child, a 3-year-old child would ask, Mummy, Daddy, can you tell me where is heaven? And you'd say, what? You don't know where heaven is. Okay, but we're waiting until we die to go to this place called heaven, but nobody seems to know exactly where heaven is. Now, I'm not trying to take the pee out of people who are religious, okay? I believe personally in God myself, but I have a different conception of what I think God is. Was Jesus God? If Jesus was God, you have to ask yourself, where did he come from first? How did he materialize and come into this existence on this planet? And was Jesus all-knowing? Was Jesus all-seeing? Could he see everything going on all at the same time throughout the boundless universes? If he was on Earth, could he see what's going on behind him? Could he turn his neck 360 degrees and see what's going on behind him? Does he know what's going on below him? Yeah? So, this notion of Jesus being the omnipotent one, being the all-seeing, the all-knowing, he could give life, he could take life away, because this is what some people believe that God can do. God can take life, he can give life, he can do whatever he wants. Yeah? And that God is everywhere all at the same time. But let's take Jesus as a physical being that came down on earth. How many physical beings do you know that can tell you what's going on in different places all at the same time? What's going on in Africa? What's going on in Japan? What's going on in New Zealand? What's going on in Australia? What's going on in New Zealand? What's going on in the heavens and the stars? What's going on in the galaxies all at the same time? Could a person who's physically come down to Earth have all that information and be that powerful to know everything that's going on simultaneously, all at the same time? I've got to ask you that. You have to really seriously give these things some serious thought. I personally think that God is an energy. That's right. I think that God is an energy. Okay? A conscious energy, a conscious, intellectual, intelligent energy, right? Conscious energy throughout the whole boundless universes. Not universe, but universes. You see, scientists for the longest time, they've been trying to work out, where does our consciousness come from? What makes us think? When we die, where does our consciousness go to? Yeah, for hundreds of years, scientists have thought about this. Where does our consciousness come from? What makes us think? What makes us feel? What makes us be able to identify things? What makes us be able to evaluate things? What gives us certain emotions, such as jealousy, anger, hatred, envy? Where did all these things come from? And this has to come from being aware. And being aware means having a conscience. Now, as I say, scientists for hundreds of years have been trying to work out, where did our consciousness come from? Where did our consciousness come from? Let me read you this article. Where does our consciousness come from? Consciousness is one of the biggest mysteries in philosophy, neuroscience, and even physics. No one has a definite answer. Did you hear that? Nobody has a definite answer, but there are several compelling theories. Some scientists believe consciousness arises purely from physical workings of the brain, like a complex network of neurons firing, forming perceptions, thoughts, and emotions. This idea aligns with materialism, which suggests consciousness is a product of biological processes. Others process that consciousness might be fundamental to the universe, much like space and time. Some quantum theorists suggest that consciousness plays a role in shaping reality itself, though these ideas remain speculative. Let me read on. Then there is the idea that consciousness emerges from interaction, like how life itself isn't just cells, but a system of energy, information, and experience. This view suggests that consciousness isn't just in our brains, but arises from complex relationships in existence. This is what I believe, that energy, right, is in existence throughout the whole boundless universes. It's a conscious energy, right? Conscious frequency, conscious vibration, but with negative and positive polarities. When I say negative and positive polarities, it means just like you have electrical charge, in order to get electrical charge, you need to have a positive and negative. When these two things hit together, bang, life comes into existence. When these two charges hit, life comes into existence. You need a positive and a negative. If you look at us, okay, we have both a left side and a right side to our brains, and then we have the center of our brain too, okay? The left and the right sides of our brain, and then you have the middle brain. Where is our consciousness coming from if it's not internal within us? If it is external, where is that consciousness coming from? And I'll tell you where I think it's coming from. I think that our consciousness is a small part of a bigger consciousness, a bigger universal consciousness, okay? An energy that's thinking, flowing, moving, creating throughout the boundless universes, just like how we can have a thought about creating something, okay? Whether we want to create a car or whether we want to build a house, we have to think first before we can start to build these things. So I think that consciousness is an energy throughout the boundless universe, but it's an intelligent energy. And just like how we think and feel and react and behave, so does the higher consciousness, which is throughout the whole boundless universe. And as I say, it's both a duality. That means it carries both negative and positive frequencies. Let me read on. Fenrir is the idea. Sorry, I've passed that. Philosophically, people have debated for centuries whether consciousness is separate from the body or if it simply dissolves when the brain shuts down. Some argue that consciousness is more than brain activity, that it taps into something deeper, perhaps a universal field of awareness. Oh my God. Perhaps a universal field of awareness. Okay? That's what I think along that line. Okay? I think this universal field of awareness, this universal energy, I think is God. God is an energy. God is a frequency. God is a vibration. God is all. God is all throughout the whole boundless universes. And it carries both duality of male and female. Okay? Has to have a counterpart. So I think God has a counterpart. Just how we look at nature. Plants have a counterpart in order for them to come into life. Electrical charge has to have a counterpart in order for things to come into life, such as a male and a female. And it's funny how we have the X and the Y chromosomes. And I think men carry the X and the Y chromosomes and women carry the X chromosome, if I'm correct. All right? If I'm correct. So there's two polarities, there's two dualities, and you need to have these two things to come together. And when they come together, bang, it creates something. It creates life. Is this how the universe operates? Also, they talk about the Big Bang. Okay, the Big Bang. That must have been electrical energy smashing together and then creating the universes, creating life. Everything seems to have a direct polar opposite. You have left leg and you have right leg. You have a left eye, you have a right eye. Okay? You have a left side of your brain, you have a right side of your brain. All right? Look at nature in itself. You got heat and you've got cold. You got seasons. You got winter and you got summer. The two polar opposites to each other. Okay? So everything, it looks like in nature, operates through duality. Let me read on. So our consciousness helps us to feel, create, act. Our consciousness is, I believe, outside of ourself, but also operates within ourself, obviously through our brain, bringing us awareness to be able to do things, right? Or as we never learn. We never learn through experience, all right? If we touch fire, if we never learned that fire is hot, yeah, we just keep making the same mistakes over and over, okay? So consciousness is awareness. Consciousness helps us to experience. Consciousness helps us to make decisions, okay? And consciousness also affects our emotional being. Let me carry on. As I say again, consciousness, I think, operates throughout the whole boundless universe. You look at human beings, we can think of things in the past. We can think of things in the present, as I'm in the present right now. And we can think of things in the future. If you want to plan a holiday for the future, you can get on your computer and look for various different, say, package holidays. If you look back at something in the past, it may be a wedding, it may be a birthday, and you can remember certain events that happened during this wedding or during the person's birthday. Okay? That is looking back at the past. And you have the present brain, okay? And then you have the future, the past, the present, and the future. And you think so quickly, okay? Our physical bodies are dense. We cannot move from place to place very quickly with our physical bodies, but in the mind, we can travel very quickly, in milliseconds, from one place to another. Is this not possible also that the universal consciousness, as I say again, consisting of both male and female principles, could this not move from place to place in extremely fast speed? And this is where we get the idea of God being omnipotent. God is an energy. God is a frequency. God is a vibration. God is made up of both negative and positive polarities. Right? What was God? Right? Some say that Jesus, they believe, was God. That's not everybody. That's some faiths. They believe that Jesus was God. So, where did he come from? He came from heaven. But if he was supposed to have created all these planets and created nature, where was he in nature? God looks like us, physical beings. Jesus had air. He had skin. He had eyes. He had blood. Where did this blood come from? I ask you. People think I'm mad when I'm asking questions like that. Where did he get his cells from? Where, if he was the first person ever in the world, where did his cells come from? Where did his atoms come from? Where did his DNA come from? Where did his lungs come from? Where did his eyes come from? Where did his bones come from? Because bones are made of calcium. Where did those come from? Where did iron, which is in the blood, where did that come from? If Jesus came from out of nothing to something, at what stage did he start to form cells? What stage did he start to form blood? At what stage did he start to form cells, hormones? Okay? What stage did he start to form melanin? At what stage? And let me ask you this again. If Jesus was God and God came out of nothing, then I got to ask you, when he came into existence, think about it. What was he standing on? What was he standing on? And what was he before? If he was nothing, and you need things in order to create things, where did things such as our stars come from? Where did the oceans come from? Where did the wind come from? The wind must have been in existence before God. The reason why I'm saying that is because if God came down to earth, I'm losing some people now, but think about it. Jesus came down to earth, but before that, he was not in existence. Then he came into existence. He had to create air first before he came down here, because in order for him to breathe, he needs lungs. Do you get what I'm saying? In order to come down here, you'd have to create air first to be able to breathe in and out. He would have to have formed the ground first. What did he form the ground from? What did he found the ground from? The oceans, the rain, the wind. Where did that come from? Was this after he came into existence? From where? From out of where? If God was a neutral thing, that nothing had existed before God, did God have a consciousness at that stage? If he had a consciousness, and I say he, because God, as I say, could be a she. This is according to religious texts. They keep using the he and the she, but they mainly refer to God as being he. At what stage did God start to have consciousness, being able to think? If there was nothing in existence before God, if there was nothing in existence before God, and I'll say it again one more time, because some people ain't getting me. If there was nothing in existence before God, what would God have been thinking about when God came into existence if there was nothing there? What would God have to be thinking about? Unless something was going on in his subconscious mind. So God has a subconscious mind? Where did that subconscious mind come from? Where did all of this thing that's come into existence now, the stars, the moon, the sun, how did all these things come into existence? You see, I believe that God was an energy. God, and I'm not using God as a he or as a she, because I think that God exists of both positive and negative polarities. We're using male and female, both male and female duality. That's what I believe that God is. God is an energy. God is an energy. God is a frequency. God is vibration. You cannot destroy energy, but energy can transmogrify. It can morph into something else. This is where I think God is, and what I think God is energy. Energy throughout the whole boundless universe, but conscious energy. I believe also that God had always existed, because I don't know anything that you can create out of nothing at all, out of nothing, not even one single atom or cell. Even that atom breaks down into pieces, yeah? Breaks down into quarks and things like that. So I'm going to ask again, can you make something out of nothing whatsoever? There must have been something in existence, and that is energy. I think that God is energy. God is frequency. God is consciousness. God is duality of both male and female principles. I'm not talking about principles as in our physical bodies, okay? I'm talking about energy. God is energy of both male and female duality. I know I'm losing some people here, and I'll do another video on this in a little bit more detail and try to simplify things. But it is my personal belief that God has always existed. God is all. God is just energy throughout the boundless universes. Okay? God is all. God is frequency. God is vibration. God is energy. Thank you, Eldad Amara. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you.